Shalom. All praise is due to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachak, Kwadash. Double honors to the elect, apostles, bishops, elders at Great Millstone, ever well. Shalom to elect Akia did that's doing this work in sincerity and truth, and not for vainglory in season out of season. I watched the Apostle Kabar's video. The Apostle Kabar did a video on what the Apostle Tahar did a video on about the CRN, Clergy Response Network. Basically, these churches set up to basically tell people that the Lord is a so-called white man, and but the main focus that the Apostle Tahar and Apostle Kabar was focusing on is they mentioned Revelations, the 13th chapter, about the mark of the beast. Okay, Revelations 13 chapter 16 verse. You have another guy right here. The end is here. Revelations 13 chapter explain the mark of the beast. I guess that's what he's saying. Okay, so we're just going to play a little bit of this.
Today's program is made possible by the generous giving of Z Ministries partners and viewers like you.
Is digital ID indeed the mark of the beast? I want to say to you today, the answer is no. If somebody actually had digital ID, or they were using it to travel, or you're signed into this, or you have this, I think it's totalitarianism. I think it's tyranny. I think it's terrible. All these things, but it doesn't cost you to lose your salvation. It doesn't do these things. It doesn't mean you have the mark of the beast, but this is the system that's being built up where one day the man of sin will rise, take a hold of all these technologies, call himself God, and begin to take over the world, and anybody that wants to worship him will be required to use the technology that they make available to receive the mark. I'm just...
Yeah, okay, so that's all I'm going to play of that. And that's exactly what it is, yo. Who's that man of sin? It's Esau, so-called white man. And yes, you are going to be required to take the mark, which we know is the micro C-hip. Okay? All right? So he's saying no. If you have a digital ID, he's trying to spin it as, oh yeah, when they make everything digital and they do the cashless society, which he didn't say that, but I see he's trying to spin it that way. But he's also saying that Revelation 13 chapter and 16 verse is not talking about the mark of the beast. Okay, which that's exactly what it is. And yes, you will be required, if you want to be in society during that time. When I say society, America, all over the world, because the micro C-hip is going to come around the whole earth. Okay, but yes, you will be required to take it if you want to function in society, basically, have, electricity, have water coming out your faucets, buy food, have any kind of businesses or whatever the situations, because the scriptures clearly tell you that. Okay. All right. So, yes, you will have to. Okay. And these churches, which he's a part of a church or a leader of a church or whatever, that just goes to show you that these churches, they're set up to lead you so-called Negroes, West Indian Haitians, Latinos, Hispanics, Native Americans, Seminole Indians into taking the micro C hip, the mark. All right. So let's just go to it. Let's go to Revelations 13 chapter and the 16 verse. Okay. Let me see. Yeah, let's go here. And like the Apostle Tahar says, we all, it sound like a broken record, but you got to drill it in Jake's head, man. You got to drill it in so-called Negroes, West Indians, Latinos, Haitians, Native Americans, Seminole Indians, Hispanics heads. All right. Because Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai, is constantly saying the same thing over and over and over again. Okay. And he causeth all. Now this guy is saying, oh yeah, it's a totalitarianism, and yeah, that's wrong, but no, it's not the mark, and but it is the mark. It is the digital ID, which is the RFID C hip. All right. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond. Who's the he? The he is the international bankers, the international gefilte fish eating bankers, the small hats, the little hat wearers. They're going to make this mandatory. That's the he, which is Esau. It says, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. What's that mark? The C hip. Okay. And that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark. So it just goes to show you that, like the Apostle Tahar brought out the video, and then Apostle Kabar put in his word on the video that the Apostle Tahar made. Yeah. The CRN, the Clergy Response Network. See, these churches are set up for you to take the RFID chip, which is the mark, You know what I'm saying? So here this guy is saying, oh, no, that's not what it means. That's exactly what it means. Okay. All right. So if you take that, now, I remember the Apostle Kabar, somebody put up, somebody said on the video, a comment on the video, that they're going to use Revelations, no, excuse me, not Revelations, Romans, the 13th chapter and the first verse. Okay, so let's go to that. To say, oh, see, you're not supposed to do that. Okay, well, let's go to it then. Romans 13 and 1. It says, let every soul be subject unto the higher powers. Who's the higher powers right now? Esau, so-called white man, because he's in rulership. Job 9:24, the earth is given to the hand of the wicked, for there is no power but of Yahweh. It says, the powers that be are ordained of Yahweh. Okay, so let every soul be subject unto the higher powers, for there is no power but of Yahweh. The powers that be are ordained of the power. So who's who's the powers of the Most High ordained by Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai? Esau, the so-called white man. Job 9:24, the earth is given into the hand of the power. Given into the hand of the wicked. Salakia. Job 9:24, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked, which is Esau, the so-called white man. Whosoever therefore resisteth the power, resisteth the ordinance of Yahweh, and they that resist shall receive to themselves damnation. So they'll use that and say, well, look, you're not supposed to go against the powers that be. So take that RFID chip. Nah, man. Nah. What that means is we're not to go to war with the so-called white man right now, because Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai, have ordained him to be in rulership in this earth at this particular point. Because you had many groups that rose up and said, what? We're going to go against the white man because they're oppressing our people. Yes, they are. They are oppressing you so-called Negroes, West Indian, Haitians, Hispanics, Latinos, Native Americans, and Seminole Indians. Yes, they are. But for you to try to get a group together armed with guns and you're going to go against who Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai set up? Nah. That's why you have many groups. The Black Panthers, you had many of the so-called Puerto Ricans, I think, like the Young Lords. You had AIM, which is the tribe of Gad, which is the North American Indians. Many of the tribes 12 tribes of Israel have trying to go against the so-called white man, and guess what? They always get destroyed, man. Because it's not time for that yet. Now, is that a defeatist defeat spirit? No. Hey, man, shit, you got to roll with the punches, man. All right? But that doesn't mean anything that the so-called white man tell you to do, you do. If you rob a store, right? What's going to happen? They're going to lock you up. If you punch a police in the face, what they're going to do? They're going to lock you up. You know what I'm saying? So if you don't pay your taxes, what they're going to do? They're going to charge you and they might lock you up. Or lock you up. All right. Now, the One West camps is out there teaching the downfall of Esau. Yeah, that's ordained by Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai. But we have the freedom of speech. Okay? And guess what? They're still going to come after the One West camps, man. Why? Because this is the time of Esau's rulership. All right? We're not out there with guns and, we're going to take down America. We're going to storm the Capitol. We're going, no. We're not doing that. That's what that's talking about. And many of the 12 tribes have came against the so-called white man Esau. And guess what? They all failed. Because it's not time for that. All right? It says, whosoever therefore resisteth the power, resisteth the ordinance of Yahweh and the power, and they that resist shall receive to themselves damnation. Yeah, see, and that's what happened with the Black Panthers. They received damnation. They were broken up. What happened to the Young Lords? They received damnation. Ephraim, so-called Puerto Ricans. What happened to AIM? Okay, the North American Indians that went against the so-called white man. What happened? They came to desolation. Okay, damnation. Why? Because our whole job is to what? Go out there and just teach the word. Okay, that's it. We're not here to gather weapons and guns and we're going to take down the government of the United States of America. Nah. That's what that's talking about. All right. It doesn't mean that, okay, you supposed to take the mark of the beast, which is the micro C hip, because you're not supposed to resist the powers that be. Okay. Because the Lord ordained them to be in power. So take the mark of the beast. Nah, it doesn't mean that. And let's go to it. See, we obey the laws of, well, the unrighteous decrees of the so-called white man, right? Right? Okay. Shit, man. You know how many times a Jake could take a so-called black, what's in there, Haitian, Latino, Native American, Hispanic man, some Indian man to take a piss in a goddamn corner and the fucking cop car would roll up on you and fucking throw your ass in jail? You know? I mean, and that's just on a small level. Okay? Imagine going against him with guns and so forth. You're not going to outgun the so-called white man. Esau, which is the so-called white man, his blessing is the sword. You're not going to, that's his blessing. Okay? Our blessing is what? This wisdom, knowledge, and understanding through the word of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. That's our blessing. You ain't going to outgun the so-called white man. His blessing is the sword, which is, you know, if you go to today's terms, is the gun. All right. And there's various other weapons. All right. So let's go to Revelation, the 14th chapter, and start at the 9th verse. All right. It says, and the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image, which, you know, the image is, you know, it's not talking about the picture of the white Jesus Christ. It's talking about his system, man. That's what the image is talking about. His system that he set up. Okay. All right. The system that the so-called white man set up. This whole system that we living in right now, yo. Okay? You know? Under his rulership. Under his unrighteous decrees. All right? It says, and receive his mark, which is, we know is the micro C hip, in his forehead or in his hand, which is, that's where they're going to put it, but they can put it in your forehead, they can put it in your right hand, they can put it in your left hand. Okay? All right? Let's go up. It says, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of the power, Yahweh, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of indignation, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. Oh, shit. Hey, listen. That's that nuclear fire, man. That's why it says fire and brimstone. That's that nuclear fire. So they can't use that, but you must obey the powers that be. This is what Romans, the 13th chapter, you must obey because God ordained them to be the power. You got to take this micro C hip. Nah, if you take it, well, you see what's going to happen to you. All right. And he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone, which is some nuclear missiles that's going to come upon America, in the presence of the holy angels, in the presence of the Lamb. Well, we know who the Lamb is. The Lamb is Yahweh Shai. Okay? Who the world ignorantly calls JC. All right? So don't let them bullshit you on that, man. You know, we do what we supposed to do to abide by the unrighteous decrees of the so-called white man, which is his various laws that he brings out. Oh no, you can't. Let me see. Oh, you can't not pay your taxes. You know. Oh no, you can't have this fence higher than 5 feet. Shit like that, man. Oh no, this state doesn't allow you to carry a gun. You got to have a license for it. You know, so we abide by that. You know. Oh, your sprinklers to water the grass can only be used by a certain amount of time. See, we abide by this shit. But when it comes to taking that mark, oh no, fuck no. The elect, Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai is gonna he's gonna have the elect not take the RFID chip. That's when oh, you must obey the powers that be. Okay? That's when the buck stops, man. Okay? Because if you do take it, then you're going to be tormented. Okay? With fire and brimstone. Okay? Which is that nuclear fire. And Yahweh Shai shooting the lasers out of his chariots, man. Out of his chariot. And the other chariots. You know what I'm saying? You know? So that's when the buck stops. You know? So they can use whatever scriptures they want to try to twist and pull and break down the wrong way. Hey, listen, let them do what they got to do. But the buck gonna stop someplace, man. With the elect. Yeah, nope. I ain't taking no goddamn micro C-hip. I ain't taking the mark micro C-hip. Okay? All right? So hope you've been edified, and with that, shalom.